yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Shut up. I'm rich. I'm richer than all this new Hollywood trash.
A, you can never go too far. B, if I'm gonna get busted, it is not gonna be by a guy like that.
I'll be back.
Here's Johnny.
It's the Al Travis Show. We're lucky to have Senator Julia Coleman on the program because I think she can give me a little more perspective on what I'm looking at. Most Dems have been on, giving me a hard time. Senator, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I presume you've seen the Hoffman photo.
I have.
Can I get your quick thoughts on it, and then I will share the truth and see what you think?
I was absolutely thrilled to see that, and I have heard from other legislators that are able to visit him in the hospital. And they said that they, still John.
All right, so here's the real thing with that photo, and for folks who haven't seen it yet, you will. It's all over the internet. He's standing just outside his ICU room door. He's got his little suitcase there. He's all dressed up. He's got the John smile on. Little tear in my eye when I first saw it because I had been texting him. It looks like we'll probably get him back on Monday. But then if you take your trained eye and you really look at it, Senator Coleman, here's my point. I don't know what kind of cheap hospital he's in, but I know every hospital I've been in, they will wheel you out. They don't make you carry your own luggage. The photo of, he looked like Steve Martin in The Jerk looking for the bus ride with his little suitcase going to town. I felt horrible for him. I don't know why we couldn't have got him a wheelchair. You're a powerful person, Senator. Can we not make that a law?
I'm sure it was just a picture. And
oh, what? You think they got him out of the wheelchair to stand up and prop him up there? Come on. The guy was walking. Now, I believe John probably said, I'll just walk, and no one was going to argue with John. But the point being is, the photo made me think of, wow, where's the wheelchair? This guy got shot 9 times.
Yeah, I love the smile on his face. It made me very happy.
We've got some things to talk about now that we're back to doing business. This maybe you've heard of this big, beautiful bill, this thing that got passed in Washington that, by the way, is going to kill thousands upon thousands of human beings. Watch for death in the streets. We can't overbill this sometimes, I tell you what. But my point to you, it will affect, evidently, things here in Minnesota. You all work through the extra 3 weeks to get a budget done. It's balanced. Is there a number, an amount that if this comes in and says, and let's just throw $1 billion out for fun's sake, it'll affect $1 billion in Minnesota money. We have 3 or 4 in the savings account, the rainy day fund. Can that just kick in, or do you all have to come back and decide whether you kick it in? Do you have to come back at all if we have that much rainy day fund? Your thoughts on if this affects Minnesota's budget?
Well, it is going to affect Minnesota's budget. And that's where, and to your point, absolutely, Al, like all things, the media completely blows certain aspects. However, it will put a lot of cost onto the states, which really bothers me because when the governor's budget imposed cost onto the county, Republicans were upset. So we need to hold true to that cost isn't actually anything. And so that part frustrates me. And Governor Walz has said publicly that if this impacts Minnesota's budget, he would think about calling a special session to address it. So there's a chance that we will have to go back. Our researchers just reached out yesterday saying they're still frantically working through the bill to actually figure out how much it's going to impact each agency, each department, and the overall spreadsheets in Minnesota.
Okay. 2 things on that. I believe when the governor was talking about this is pre the shootings, right? This is back in the day, and this is going to, we might have to come back. I think that's a good play for a guy who either wants to be governor or the president, because he gets another opportunity in October, November to say, Orange Man bad, and I'm running against him, or I'm the one saving Minnesota and the people dying in the streets. I get that made sense for him to say that. Now we're where we are today. There's one House seat that is open that needs a special election, right? I mean, to fill it, otherwise the House is now flipped over and he's not going to call a special session while that's going on. We don't know what's going to go on with the Mitchell deal yet. That starts, I think, next week. He can't really call a special session now to handle this big, nasty, beautiful bill because it won't go his way if the numbers stay as they are. So he has to wait. How long can he wait? And my point being is I don't think the big, beautiful bill starts till October, the 2026 budget. You guys go back in January anyway. Are we going to miss? Does he miss the opportunity to have it? Because you're going to tell me you're going to have one in November or December before you come back 6 weeks later in January? That would make no sense to me.
So it's a bonding year. So we don't come back till mid-February next year. So
Mid-February, okay.
I could absolutely see us waiting to, it's going to take a while to figure out what the numbers are going to look like here in Minnesota, what the impact going to be, and then decide if that warrants us coming back. I know there's going to be eventually a special election for the Horton seat. I mean, there's no chance of that flipping. And
No.
Republicans, out of respect, up a candidate.
Yeah.
So blue, the numbers will remain the way they are. And so, we don't know what's going to happen yet, but I'm curious.
Let me ask you this: the Hortman seat, yeah, and I agree with this idea of not running anybody, just let it stay until the next election, which is literally coming up next year. But the Hortman seat, is it blue because of it's a blue district, or is it blue because everybody loved Hortman?
The percentage shows that you could probably put a Democrat in there that nobody's ever heard of, or just like a paper that says this is a Democrat.
Okay, and that's fair enough. Good analysis. All right. And we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen on the Mitchell deal, right? I mean, how long that'll last or what's going to happen there. That is still completely up in the air.
And after the assassination, supposed to be right after special session, it got pushed out due to security concerns. So we don't know when. It hasn't been rescheduled yet.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Two things I want to talk about. I think I can get one done here before we go to break. The voter ID law, voter licensing laws. As I understand, those were voted on in 2023. Mm-hmm. And what killer to me is because of all this stuff, spending $18 billion, raising taxes, all the things that the Democrats got in 2023. This one was a hidden gem. Here we are saying all of a sudden now, if you're 12 to 21, you must go get a separate license. I think it's $35. I think it's a 7-hour test. You got to go through this to know that you can drive a boat. Those of us with a Minnesota driver's license have been able to do that. And as this keeps moving up, you're going to be 41 and still be having to take this. This seems to me like a strange tax on Minnesota that we didn't see coming.
I think that voters are going to see that that's not the essence of this. We tried to point out during 2023 session of millions and millions of new fees, not necessarily even just taxes, that haven't actually yet. They might have actually applied one. And so we're going to get a lot more of these. And the funny thing is, Zach Duckworth, the final day to start getting these licenses is on the day he was born. So he felt it was personal.
Oh, okay, maybe it was. But to me, what shows me, and I call it a tax because you can call it fee, whatever you want to call it, is the idea that if you come from Wisconsin, forget about it. Those rules don't apply to you. It isn't the same for everybody. It's if you're from Minnesota, we're gonna soak you a little bit. The only thing they haven't done yet, and I'm telling them they should, because then they can call it the Al Travis rule, and they should charge every human that wants to swim in a lake, X number of dollars, get yourself one of them little rubber wristband things like you get at the county pool, and then you can swim in the lakes. The only thing we're not charging for currently is swimming. Why are we not? Let's really get it. It's the one thing. It's you can touch it in Minnesota, they can tax it. Am I wrong?
If you want to call that the Al Travis law, you'll quickly become the most hated man in Minnesota. But I mean,
but famous, hated but famous. No, but you get my point. What are they not? I get it. You want to put a sticker, and it should be a nominal fee on the side of your fish house because if you're going to leave it there and it goes in the water, we're coming after you. I get it, but you can't tell me why a guy who has the personality and the ability to drive a boat, because I've got my driver's license and I took my test and did all the rest, that all of a sudden now I got to spend 7 hours and $35 just to drive a boat in Minnesota. You're going to have to explain it to me.
Hey, not too late to repeal anything. Reach out.
All right, fair enough. We got to go to break. When we come back, I have the best bill to talk about with my Senator Julia Coleman. We're going to talk about the motorcycle laws. They're flying everywhere. Not just the laws, the motorcycles. More after this.
About it. Now that school's out for the summer, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
It's nice to know a guy that knows a guy. Al Travis.
We've got our Senator Julia Coleman on the program. Want to talk with her big time about this new motorcycle laws deal. But I want to be honest, I really don't care. I'm probably kind of as big of a libertarian on this as I was with the boating laws. I think we have to be accountable for action. If I want to drive a boat and I don't know how and I make a wake and I get a fine for making the wake, that's on me. And I should pay for that. If I'm a motorcycle rider and I don't want to wear a helmet, I don't really care. I don't ride motorcycles. I'm not against them. They scare the bejesus out of me. So the new motorcycle law personally doesn't bother me. The fact that it got passed and I had no idea it was coming and I do this for a living is interesting to me. The fact that Julia Coleman, Senator Coleman's been on this program, and she is evidently a closet Harley gal. How did this get passed? How did this get by the watchful eye of Al? Again, I personally don't care, but it came Tuesday and no one knew about it.
That is a very, I would say, sore subject, because we passed it with $200,000 out of the Motorcycle Safety Fund for DPS to tell people this is coming. And that has biggest frustration point for me is that there should have been way more public announcements rather than the day before when they had a press conference. And so I have been trying to personally work with motorcycle activists and enthusiasts to just get the word out ourselves. And they've actually done a phenomenal job. They made their own flyers, their own leaflets, their own digital campaigns. And so I think that the grassroots kind of groundswell getting this information out there has been more effective than, shocker, a government agency.
Just truth in advertising. Maybe that's a double play in words. DPS, I talked with them a couple of years back. Remember when the marijuana thing got by and we are discussing how you're going to know if they had enough marijuana to be illegal or when they did all that? I went to DPS and said, now that you've got this here, I think you need to do an ad campaign. Where do you talk to these people driving? You talk to them when you're in cars. And I went up the whole flagpole, and they're like, nah, we're good. Same thing with this. There's no reason in the world, because as much as the motorcycle people know and like, and again, I don't care about this law much, is the idea that you're driving down the streets of Minneapolis yesterday, and all of a sudden motorcycle guy pulls the bob and weave or whatever you people call it, making people mad because they haven't heard about it. This should have been all over the place. When you're going to change roads that much, I think it should have been all over, and shame on them for not spending whatever. $200,000 doesn't spend anything, by the way, but still it would have been something. Does that make sense?
I wholeheartedly agree. And there's a lot of cheap ways to do stuff like this. For example, one of the motorcycle groups I know got into parades and rode their bikes in the parades and handed out information. That didn't.
There you go.
I will say, though, that there was a remarkable opportunity to pitch this to Minnesotans in a way that they would understand, because we are empathetic people. Mm-hmm. And I suggested to DPS, because this is what sold me on the bill: show a motorcyclist getting rear-ended sitting in traffic.
Yep.
Show suffering from heat stroke, which one of my constituents did while sitting in 494, and create empathy for the motorcyclist, and then talk about sharing the lane. And that didn't happen. It was just, hey, this is what is going to happen now, and people freaked out about it, and there was a lot of misinformation going around.
Well, it's kind of like the circles, the traffic circles, right? Big anti-traffic circle guy to begin my life. Now I understand. No less accidents, just less people dying from, T-bones. It's now all glancing stuff. Okay. I personally didn't realize that many motorcyclists are getting rear-ended in heavy traffic because people are knotheads and not paying attention. Didn't understand it. It doesn't bother me. It's the state fair. It's going to be the Renaissance Festival. When people aren't used to this yet because we haven't heard about it, and you're waiting in line for the parking spot, and the motorcycle guy's like, oh, sayonara, I'm heading through. That's when people are going to get ticked, and somebody's going to open a door. Someone's going to jig their car over a little bit so that, you can't go by me. We got to let people know they're allowed to do it now.
I really appreciate you spreading awareness about this, and drivers should know that it is illegal, and you will get a fine and ticketed if you prevent bikers from doing this. And motorcyclists need to know that it is a max of 25 miles per hour. This isn't California lane splitting. This is to just help you split and filter through, so you're not a sitting duck, you're not sitting in the heat, and to do it safely and slowly. And you also don't have to do it if you don't want to.
In 25 miles, that's if traffic's going 25. As I understand it, you can go 40 if you're a motorcyclist. You're 15-minute or is the max?
No. So the bill was originally written as 40, but it was amended to be only 25 miles per hour maximum, 15 miles per hour over the speed of traffic. So if traffic stopped, you can only go 15 miles per hour.
See, we got to get that out, Senator. This is kind of my issue. Now, you were on this bill. You should have been talking about it months ago with me. I got to dig it out of it's made the paper. I never heard of it. This needs to be put out there. That's all I'm saying. People got to know. I thought it was 25 to 40, but now you're talking 25 is the max. So stop and go, or 10 miles an hour, you can go whipping by. I don't have a problem with it. Again, to me, it doesn't affect me. So as long as we all know about it, we keep our heads up and we don't have anger management problems with drivers. I don't necessarily like the idea that if you cut somebody off, you're going to get paid, you're going to get fined. Is there a turn-up period for that? We have a year to figure that out, or is it starting right now today? If
July 1 this year is when all of that started. So.
See, but that's a law that most people won't even know, because except for this radio station and a couple flyers, people don't know it. So if they act a certain way, they're going to get fined. That makes me feel bad. I wish there was a startup. I wish we would have spent more energy letting people know about it is all. I'm not blaming. I just
inspired me to do another post about it sometime today. So that's a good point.
Right. Fair enough. I thank you for being here. You're always taking time to be with us. I thank you for doing that. I really do. I appreciate you.
Always fun to be on. Thanks, Al.
Senator Julia Coleman. Oh, wait a minute. You got it. One last thing. I didn't ask you your question. We do a question every week. I got 30 seconds. Last photo you took on your phone.
Oh, gosh. Of one of my kids. I was teaching him how to ride a bike last night.
That is so much fun. Good for you. Okay, great photo. Good photo to take. Good to have. Thank you for sharing. Senator Julia Coleman on the Al Travis Show.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all.